In the Bay of Bengal, far from India's mainland coastline, there is a small forested island surrounded by coral reef and heavy surf. From above, North Sentinel Island looks peaceful, dense green canopy, pale beaches, and blue water. But it is one of the most restricted places on Earth. Not because of a secret military base or hidden treasure, but because it is home to a people who have made their position unmistakably clear for generations. They do not want contact with the outside world. The people of the island are known as the Sentinelese, an indigenous community often described as uncontacted. Their isolation is not a mystery to be solved, it is a boundary to be respected. North Sentinel forces the modern world to confront an uncomfortable question: when curiosity meets another people's right to survive, which one should win? North Sentinel is part of the Andaman Islands, an archipelago administered by India in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands Union Territory. Geographically, the island sits in a region that has long connected South Asia and Southeast Asia by sea. Politically, it belongs nominally to the South Andaman Administrative District. But in practice, North Sentinel is treated very differently from most inhabited territory. Indian authorities recognize that the Sentinelese have never consented to integration, tourism, missionary work, or regular outside contact. So although the island falls within India's jurisdiction, the people living there are effectively left to govern their own lives. This unusual arrangement reflects a rare policy choice. The state claims responsibility for protecting the island, while also limiting its own interference. The goal is not to open North Sentinel, but to prevent outsiders from changing it. The legal foundation for this protection comes from the Andaman and Nicobar Islands Protection of Aboriginal Tribes Regulation of 1956. This law was designed to safeguard indigenous communities in the region, including groups whose populations had already suffered badly after contact with outsiders. For North Sentinel, the rule is especially strict. Travel to the island is prohibited, and approaching within 5 kilometers, or about 3 miles, is not allowed. This buffer zone is not symbolic. It exists because even a brief landing could carry consequences that cannot be undone. The Sentinelese have lived apart from global disease environments. Illnesses that many outsiders consider ordinary, such as influenza or measles-like infections, could be devastating to a small community with little or no acquired immunity. The law is therefore not just about privacy, it is about survival. The island is also protected by active enforcement. The surrounding waters are patrolled, including by Indian naval authorities, and outsiders are kept at a distance. In modern terms, that makes North Sentinel an unusual protected area. The main thing being protected is not wildlife, a monument, or a scenic landscape, but a human society's decision to remain separate. Indian officials have generally chosen remote monitoring rather than direct administration. Boats and occasional aerial observation may be used from safe distances, particularly after events like storms or tsunamis, but repeated face-to-face engagement is avoided. This policy reflects hard lessons from colonial and post-colonial history. Across the world, indigenous communities that were contacted by powerful outsiders often faced disease, exploitation, land loss, and cultural disruption. North Sentinel represents a deliberate attempt not to repeat that pattern. The Sentinelese are often called an uncontacted tribe, but that phrase can be misleading. It does not mean no outsider has ever seen them, and it does not mean they are unaware of the outside world. Their island has been approached many times, sometimes by officials, sometimes by fishermen, sometimes by shipwrecked crews, and sometimes by people trying to make contact illegally. The Sentinelese have responded consistently. They warn, resist, and sometimes attack. From their point of view, an approaching boat may not represent friendship, research, or curiosity. It may represent danger. Their reactions are shaped by their own history and their own understanding of threat. The outside world often frames their resistance as aggression, but another interpretation is simpler. They are defending their home from people who have been told not to come. One reason North Sentinel is so difficult to approach is physical geography. The island is ringed by reefs that can make navigation dangerous, especially for unfamiliar vessels. Boats have run aground there, sometimes unintentionally bringing outsiders close to shore. When that happens, the situation can turn deadly. The Sentinelese have been observed shooting arrows at boats and even at low-flying helicopters. These are not isolated stories created by legend, they are part of the documented record of encounters around the island. To outside observers, arrows fired at a helicopter can seem shocking or even surreal. But for the islanders, a loud machine overhead may be a threat entering their territory. The technology gap does not erase the basic human logic of defense. The island's boundary is not just legal, it is actively guarded by its inhabitants. In 2006, the danger became tragically clear when 2 fishermen were killed after their boat drifted near or onto the island. They had reportedly been fishing illegally in the area and their vessel ended up close enough for the Sentinelese to reach them. The incident highlighted a crucial point. Many confrontations around North Sentinel are not caused by the Sentinelese seeking conflict beyond their island, but by outsiders entering a prohibited and dangerous zone. After deaths like this, recovery operations themselves become complicated. Sending people ashore could risk more violence and could also risk exposing the Sentinelese to disease. Indian authorities therefore face a difficult balance, enforcing national law, responding to deaths, and still avoiding actions that could harm the islanders or escalate contact. The policy of distance becomes both practical and ethical. The most internationally publicized case came in 2018, when John Allen Chow, a 26-year-old American Christian missionary, illegally attempted to reach North Sentinel. He paid local fishermen to bring him close and made multiple attempts to approach the island. His stated aim was religious contact, but he had no permission to go there, and the 5-kilometer exclusion zone was well known. On his final attempt, he was killed by the Sentinelese. The story became global news, often framed as a clash between faith, law, and isolation. But at its core, the incident was also about consent. The Sentinelese had not invited contact. Indian regulations prohibited it. Local intermediaries were drawn into illegal transport. And the result was a death that many experts argued was preventable if the island's boundaries had been respected. A striking feature of India's approach is that the Sentinelese are not treated as criminals for defending their island when outsiders intrude. Indian authorities have indicated that they will not prosecute the Sentinelese for killing people who illegally venture ashore. This position may sound unusual in a modern legal system, but it follows a clear logic. The people on the island have not agreed to participate in India's courts, policing, language systems, or public institutions. They live under a protected isolation policy that recognizes their separate existence. Prosecuting them would require exactly the kind of forced contact the law is designed to prevent. Instead, responsibility is placed on outsiders. Do not go there, do not hire boats to take you there, and do not create situations that endanger both yourself and the islanders. There was confusion in 2018 when India excluded 29 islands, including North Sentinel, from the restricted area permit regime as part of a broader effort to encourage tourism in the Andaman and Nicobar region. Some reports created the impression that North Sentinel was being opened to visitors. But government clarification emphasized that the relaxation was not a general invitation to tourists. For sensitive places like the Sentinel Islands, pre-approved researchers or anthropologists might be considered under strict clearance, while the core prohibitions and protections remained critical. This distinction matters because bureaucracy can be misunderstood. Removing one permit requirement does not erase tribal protection laws, disease risks, or exclusion zones. North Sentinel did not suddenly become a destination. It remained a protected island where casual visitation, tourism, and unauthorized contact are not allowed. The story of North Sentinel is often told as if the island is a puzzle. How do the Sentinelese live? What language do they speak? How many people are there? What do they believe? Many of these questions remain unanswered, and that uncertainty fuels fascination. But ethical anthropology has increasingly moved away from treating isolated communities as objects of discovery. knowledge is not automatically worth any cost. In the case of North Sentinel, the price of satisfying curiosity could be catastrophic disease transmission, cultural disruption, or renewed violence. The responsible position is to accept limits. The Sentinelese are not a living museum, not a lost civilization waiting to be opened, and not a challenge for adventurers. They are a contemporary human community whose refusal of contact is itself a form of communication. North Sentinel Island remains one of the clearest examples of a boundary the modern world is asked not to cross. Its beaches are visible on maps, its location is known, and its legal status is documented. Yet the correct response is distance. The island's protection is based on several overlapping reasons. The Sentinelese have shown they do not want contact, outsiders could bring deadly disease, visits are illegal, and attempts to force engagement have already ended in tragedy. In an age when almost every place is photographed, mapped, marketed, and shared, North Sentinel stands apart because restraint is the point. The most important thing to understand about the island is not how to reach it, but why it should be left alone. Respecting North Sentinel means accepting that some doors are not ours to open. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.